Hola estudiantes, we're going to talk about the verb tener, so make sure you have your TENER note guide, a pen or a pencil, and your Avancemos textbook ready so that you can fill in your note guide properly as we go through the PowerPoint. Use the verb tener to talk about what people have or possession. So what do people possess? What do they have? Tener means to have. So at this point, fill in number 1 of your note guide where it asks what tener means in English. Here are the forms of the verb tener. You have to conjugate a verb in order to give it a subject. Conjugate means change to match the subject. So for example, if your subject is yo, you take the verb tener and change it to tengo in order to say I have. Yo tengo, I have. If tú is your subject, take the verb tener and change it to tienes. Tú tienes means you have. If your subject is usted, change tener to tiene. Usted tiene means you have. Remember, usted and tú are different. Tú is informal, usted is formal. Él tiene means he has, and ella tiene means she has. Notice that usted, él, and ella have the same form of tener. If your subject is nosotros or nosotras, change tener to tenemos. Nosotros tenemos means we have. If your subject is ustedes, ellos, or ellas, change tener to tienen. Ustedes tienen means you all have, and ellos or ellas tienen means they have. Please pause the video at this time and fill in part 2 where it asks you to write the correct conjugation of tener in the chart. Here are some example sentences with different forms of the verb tener. Remember, tener means to have. Yo tengo muchos amigos means I have many friends. Notice that if yo is the subject, we changed tener to tengo. Ellas tienen clases muy buenas means they have very good classes. Notice that ellas is the subject, therefore the form of tener is tienen. Mi madre tiene unos libros interesantes. My mother has some interesting books. Because mi madre is the subject, it's like saying ella. Therefore, we use the form of tener, tiene. ¿Tienes tú una bicicleta? Do you have a bicycle? Notice the subject is tú, and in a question it comes after the verb. Tienes is the form that matches tú. Nosotros tenemos clases importantes en la escuela. We have important classes in school. Notice that nosotros is our subject, therefore we used tenemos. Practiquemos. Fill in the blank with the correct form of tener. Use the verb chart on your note guide to match the form of tener with the subject. Our subject in número 1 is tú. So it should say, ¿Tienes tu agua? Do you have water? Número 2. Notice our subject is yo. Therefore we use tengo. Yo tengo la clase de español. I have Spanish class. Número 3. Our subject is nosotros. Therefore we use tenemos. Nosotros tenemos clase en 5 minutos. We have class in 5 minutes. Número 4. Juanita is our subject. Juanita is a girl's name. Therefore, it's like saying ella. So the form we need is tiene. Juanita tiene mucha tarea. Juanita has a lot of homework. Número 5. Las chicas are the girls. That's like saying they, and we know ellas is they. So the form of tener we need is tienen. Las chicas tienen los libros. The girls have the books. Pause the video at this time and fill out part 3 of the note guide where it asks you to write the correct form of tener in the blank. We use tener in a little bit different way if we add some things. So notice here it says use the verb tener plus the word que plus an infinitive to talk about what you have to do. Well, let's talk a little bit more about infinitives. An infinitive is a verb. Infinitives in Spanish end in AR, ER, or IR. They mean to do something. Here are some examples of infinitives in Spanish. AR verbs include verbs such as hablar, montar, and mirar. Remember, hablar means to talk or speak, montar means to ride, and mirar means to watch or to look at. Here are some examples of ER infinitives or verbs. Comer, beber, and leer. Remember, comer means to eat, beber means to drink, and leer means to read. Here are some examples of IR infinitives or verbs in Spanish. Escribir is to write, vivir is to live, and asistir is to attend. Pause the video at this time and fill in part 4 and 5 of your note guide. It asks you to say what an infinitive is and to make a list of 3 AR, ER, and IR infinitives below. You can use this slide to write your infinitives. Remember, we use the verb tener plus que plus an infinitive to talk about what people have to do. So instead of saying what they have, we use this formula to say what they have to do. You use the correct form of tener when saying who has to do something. Don't forget our forms are yo tengo, tú tienes, usted, él, ella, tiene, nosotros, nosotras tenemos, and ustedes, ellos, ellas, tienen. Here are some examples of how to use tener plus que plus an infinitive. Yo tengo que comer la fruta. Notice that yo is the subject, therefore I am the one who has to do that action. Plus the word que following tener, plus an infinitive or a verb to say what it is I have to do. So yo tengo que comer la fruta means I have to eat the fruit. The second sentence says, ella tiene que usar la computadora. Ella is the subject, therefore tiene is the correct form of tener. It has to be followed by the word que, and then we have to use the infinitive to say what it is she has to do. So, ella tiene que usar la computadora means she has to use the computer. The last sentence, los estudiantes tienen que estudiar el vocabulario. Los estudiantes is the subject, which is like saying they. We know they is ellos, therefore the form of tener is tienen. Notice we have to use the word que and the infinitive to follow that to say what it is the students have to do. Los estudiantes tienen que estudiar el vocabulario means that the students have to study the vocabulary. Before we move on, pause the video and make sure you fill in the next part of the note guide where it asks you to use tener plus que plus an infinitive to talk about what you Okay, practiquemos. Fill in the blanks with the correct form of tener and the infinitive. Notice each sentence already has the word que, so you don't need to include that yourself. Alright, so let's look at número uno. The subject is tú. The form of tener we need in the blank is tienes. And to read is leer. So the sentence should be, ¿Tienes tú que leer el libro? Do you have to read the book? Número dos. The form of tener we need is tengo because yo is our subject. To study is estudiar. So our sentence should be, yo tengo que estudiar para la clase de español. I have to study for Spanish class. Número tres. Nosotros is our subject, so tener should change to tenemos. We have the word que, and to talk is hablar. So nosotros tenemos que hablar por teléfono means that we have to talk on the phone. Practiquemos más. Fill in the blanks the same as we did at the previous slide. Juanita is our subject, therefore ella. Tiene is the form we need. Plus que, plus to do, would be hacer. Therefore, Juanita tiene que hacer mucha tarea means that Juanita has to do a lot of homework. Número cinco. Las chicas are the girls. Remember, ellas is the word that means they. Therefore, tienen is the correct form. Followed by the word que, and to draw is dibujar. So, las chicas tienen que dibujar en la clase de arte means that the girls have to draw in art class. Número seis. Carlos is the subject, which means él would be the pronoun. The form of tener with él is tiene, followed by que, followed by the verb to drink. Remember, beber means to drink, or tomar means to drink. So you could use either. Carlos tiene que beber agua porque no le gusta el jugo means that Carlos has to drink water because he doesn't like juice. Pause the video at this time and fill out the last section of your note guide where it asks you to fill in the correct form of tener in the first blank and the infinitive in the second blank. Notice it says to use page 105 for these new infinitives. You may not remember what to teach is, so you'll have to look that up on page 105. If you have additional questions, see the notes provided on page 91. Remember that you need to know what TENER means, what the forms are, and that TENER plus K plus an infinitive means to say what people have to do. Make sure you look back over the video if you need to, because you have a flipped mini quiz tomorrow.